Jason.
Steffen.
This is Tennessee Mountain Homestead, and today we're back out in the shop working on the wheel horse. As you saw from yesterday's video, we got the idler pulleys and the whole pulley setup all done. Today, we're working on the belt guides. Yesterday, we built this belt system. We added this idler pulley, we made this a 5-inch, and we made the engine pulley a 7-inch. We had to get this belt from the store. It's an 84-inch belt. Today what we're gonna do is build the guide system for this belt so that when the clutch is pushed in, the belt has somewhere to rest instead of going slack and sagging down. We're gonna take you guys along with that process. Let's get into it. So for the main belt guide, I'm gonna attempt to make this all in one piece. Steffen, if you would, hold that on the front of the pulley. So it looks like we'll go with 58 inches. All right, so here we are over at the welding table. Now, I've done this before. Almost a year ago, I made one of the exact same kind of deals for mine, for the John Deere 214. I've got a 7-inch pulley that I just happen to have spare, and this piece of bar stock is actually from that build. It's left over, it was cut off and unused. What I'm doing with this is I wrapped this bar stock around the pulley as a spacing of 1/8 of an inch. So now I need to take this piece of bar stock, which is 6 foot long. I'm going to try to make that all in one piece. So once this is in place, I'm going to tack weld it to the table and then bend this around that. And theoretically, when I release everything from this mold, I'll have a piece of bar stock wrapped around the pulley with an 1/8 inch spacing. So now that we've got our fixture jig established, as you can see, piece of 1/8 inch bar stock wrapped around it. That was a lot easier that we had that from the past. But it's welded there, and it's wrapped around that pulley. Now we're gonna take this piece here. We're gonna start at 32 inches, which is this line, right there, 32 inches from the end. And we're gonna wrap it around this, the same angle that needs to be. So I think we got it first try. I did something different than I did last time, is I took the welder and ran a few stitch beads around it, just in a straight line. And that's gonna help it, I think, keep its shape, which it seems to have done. So now we're gonna let this thing cool off. We gotta grind off the spot welds. That's holding it down to the table. We're gonna let it cool off, take it over to the mower and get it fit in. Here's the finished product. This is the bottom side. This is gonna go all the way down to the transmission pulley, the back of that. And we need to measure about from the center of the pulley line, 14.5 inches back. I was already close right there. And that's gonna be for the top side. We're gonna cut that off with a bandsaw, see how it fits on there. And here we go. So here's the bar stock. We gotta trim a little bit more off there, but for the most part, this is just a rough test fit. You can see how it goes right around that pulley, comes all the way back down here. Now, as far as this brake goes, we're not gonna pay too much attention to this because if we have to, this is just gonna go away and we're gonna have a hydraulic brake on this thing. We could probably clearance this for now, and I think it'll already fit, even with this here. It'll just clear it, just touch it when it moves. But the next thing we need to do is start figuring out the top side. We're gonna have another piece of bar stock on here, going right down over top of the belt the entire length. And then we've got to weld tabs to the backside in order to hold that in place and figure out how we're gonna support this thing, either from the motor, from the frame, or both. Steffen's cutting those tabs for the belt guide. I went ahead and cut some of these pieces of steel out of some thin sheet metal, and it's going to be to offset the bolt mounts for the belt guide around the engine pulley here. I've got 4 bosses. They're 7/16 thread. Well, I can use 3 out of 4 of them. There's 2 on top and 2 on the bottom. This one I can't use, but these 3 I can. So they're kind of close to the pulley. I'm gonna use hex head cap screws. So these here, I'm gonna drill a hole through for the cap screw to go in there, and then I'll have another inch outside of that to weld a tab onto, so I can weld the engine belt guides to these tabs, and it'll be removable. time, guys. So check this out. I was a little bit concerned about how I was going to attach this piece of bar stock around the pulley, because on this motor, the pulley gets up into the holes in the bosses that are around it. And if I had just depended on these 7/16 cap screws to hold this thing on, it would have been a real tough thing to get it on and off. Essentially, once I welded the tabs to this bar stock around the pulley, these screws would become captive and you'd have to unscrew them little by little and get the whole thing off at once. It's kind of how mine is on the John Deere, honestly. It's not this bad. So anyway, what I did is these screws are going to be just holding these pieces of steel to the engine block. And then what I did was I came in behind it and I welded tabs to this itself. And what I'll do is I'll drill a hole through here, probably 1/4 inch, and then tap the plate behind it to 1/4 and just use 1/4 machine screws, 3 of them right around there. And that way, when it comes time to change the belt or service this thing or whatever, you just take off those Phillips head 1/4 and the whole thing will just come off. A little bit of Loctite, whatever it takes to keep it on, it probably won't be an issue, knowing how that stuff works. I might even use a little lock washer there. Anyway, that's down the road. Right now we have our mounting system done for the engine. The next thing we're gonna do is use the tabs that Steffen just got finished cutting out, and we're gonna weld the bottom side to these guides. Bottom and top right here. And then we're gonna figure out how we're gonna support it off of any steel that's near it. So probably this one will have a bracket going here with a bolt to bolt it to that frame piece. And I think from the engine back will be good. We just might have to have one back here when it's all said and done. Maybe one here. Definitely one in the back. But I think 1, 2, 3, this thing will be golden. I got some welding ahead of me. Let's go take care of it. Here's what's going on. So here's the belt guide that you just saw me take off of the tractor. Here's my tabs for the engine around the pulley. And then now we're getting ready to weld the top side track to the bottom of it. And these are all the tabs that Steffen had cut out right here. Now these fit just like that. And we're gonna put these every 1 3/4 or so, like train tracks. Exactly like I did my John Deere. And that's what's gonna hold these two together in a C shape. And the reason we're doing it like this is to let any kind of water or dirt or debris evacuate out of the channel as the belt rides through if it gets anything in it. And I've clamped a piece of 3/4 inch square tubing in between. So that'll keep it consistent and it'll keep it straight, hopefully. Check this out. So here's our belt guide going around the pulley. Here's our 2 tracks that we made here. Now it's not even supported, it's just sitting there right now. But as you can see, my tabs, 1, 2, 3. So what I'm gonna do is drill right through there, and we're gonna use 1/4-20s to drill it, to tap into these pieces of steel that are bolted to the engine. We're gonna work it from here. We're gonna make sure our clearance around the whole entire thing is good. And then once this is bolted down, we're gonna move on and center the tracks on the belt and bolt it accordingly to where it needs to be bolted to. And we'll weld tabs and affix those to the frame. Continuing with the process, like I said in the last clip, I think it's secured on the engine, and now I've got a 90-degree steel bracket clamped to the frame, holding up this section so the belt is centered inside of it. And I'm going to tack weld that bracket to this track. right, check this out. The belt guides are basically complete. We do have to reinforce and gusset some of these tabs I built, and finish out welding some of this stuff. However, this is the final product right here. This is what it's gonna be. So check this out. The engine, the clutch is engaged right now. Spins free. Nothing's rubbing, nothing's making any noise. Steffen's gonna go ahead and activate the clutch. Totally slack. No friction on the belt. Let it out with the clutch out. That's it right there. As I was just saying before the camera battery died, this is the complete belt system. Now it needs gussets, it needs paint, but besides that, it's good to go. It's just as stiff as a board right now. So, proof of concept, we've got this thing stabilized on jack stands, jacks. It's completely not touching anything. Tire's off the ground, the one tire that's still on it. We're gonna fire this thing up and watch it run and push the clutch in and stuff. Maybe even pop it in gear, see what happens. All right, meow, here we go. Fire it up. We got our clearance around here. Right now the clutch is disengaged. Let it out. Check out the belt and the guides. Alright, look at the transmission pulley. Push the clutch in. Stop. Let it out. Nice and smooth engagement right there. Push it in. Nice. All right, let's cut it off. That's going to be a wrap for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed the content. If you're new to the channel, please like, comment, and subscribe. Once again, I'm Jason.
Steffen.
This is Tennessee Mountain Homestead, and we'll see you on the next one.